Hello, welcome to this part two in our conversations series around awareness in self-care and practical skills when it comes to how do we manage the more kind of mental health and emotional impact side of COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, we've got in For the Love of Healthcare, we have a lot of support. We know that there's a lot of different organizations that have created particular mental health support programs, but this is sort of meant more as a conversation, as a, if you don't really feel like you're the type of person that would access those services, or you're just kind of wanting to bounce ideas or get some tips on how people are managing, or how we could be managing ourselves and our emotions and our mental well-being in general during this time, particularly when we're working in a clinical setting for general practice or primary care, then this is the session for you. I'm joined by Kylie Zeal, who is a professional certified coach. She's also a very good friend of mine. She's my personal coach as well, and we just love having conversations about these sorts of things, because we believe, well, I definitely believe that self-care and looking after yourself in all areas is extremely important. So today we're going to be looking at the topic of burnout, which again, it's one of the things that we keep hearing a lot as within the For the Love of Healthcare group that people are experiencing. Obviously, working in primary care, we have been inundated with a lot of change, a lot of demand from the public and our patients, but also internally, there's a lot of uncertainty. So a lot of us are working longer hours, or a lot of us are dealing with completely new situations, and all of that obviously takes a toll. So let's talk about burnout. Let's talk about, what is it? How do we look after it? What do we do? So first of all, thanks, Kylie, for joining us, and welcome to this episode 2.
Thank you so much for having me again. It's great to be here. And This is such an important topic, is burnout. Like, burnout was already an issue before COVID-19 happens. And now, especially in the health sector, people are having to do probably more work than ever.
I
was thinking maybe one of the first things we should do is tap into what's going on in the health arena. Like, you would have been talking to a lot of colleagues, I imagine. What's the vibe that you're picking up on?
Well, at the moment, the biggest issue that we have is obviously there's been a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of anxiety in the community. A lot of the clinics have had to entirely shift the way that they work, or that we work, essentially from, we can't do business as usual of seeing patients as they come in through the doors. A lot of us have shifted to either a complete telehealth model, which is like doing appointments, seeing patients doing consultations over the phone or over video. There's also been a lot of information from government, from media, and even from, Medicare, and all that information has changed quite a lot in a very short period of time. So even just trying to stay on top of what are we meant to be doing? What's the advice? Not even this week. What's the advice today? Because sometimes the advice would change 3 times within the same week. So all of that means that you're just kind of running on adrenaline, and you're always trying to check, am I doing the right thing? Am I looking after my patients? Am I looking after my teams? Am I, looking after my family at home? So it's a lot. That we're all kind of having to process.
So it wouldn't be surprising if people are on the verge of, or if not in the middle of, burnout.
We've actually had staff members have to take stress leave because of everything that's happening. So, and this is a lot of it is reception staff who are dealing with obviously all the queries that are coming through. A lot of the phones have been, ringing nonstop.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at that at all. And I think it's good that it's being caught, as in, it's been recognized. And if people are needing to take leave, that can cause some more stresses on the rest of the workplace, because, suddenly we're one man or one woman down. But that's a necessary part of managing our health, our mental health, is making sure people are also getting the breaks and the rest if they need it. What we should do is start with looking at what are the signs to look for with burnout.
Yeah.
So I'd say one of the first things that I'll watch out for is, are you sleeping well? If you're sleeping noticeably less well than you normally would, then that's an obvious sign, because when I say less well than your normal, like you have a baseline of what you're used to. Hopefully your baseline is a healthy one. Like you go to bed and you generally, most of the time, will just sleep right through and then wake up the next morning feeling refreshed. That's the ideal. I've come to know myself as a great sleeper. I find that I wake up in exactly the same position that I went to bed in. I don't know how normal that is, because people look at me often very strange when I say that. But that's that's my normal. So that's what I begin to measure other nights against. If it's a night where I have tossed and turned a lot, or I have been waking up, or if I wake up noticeably earlier than normal, the first thing I'm going to be wondering is, what's going on in my head? What, if anything, am I stressing about at the moment? Because I'm going to see it in my sleep. So that's one of the first things to watch out for, is how is your sleep? Second of all, your sense of overwhelm. Can you think straight? It's cognitive issues are often the result of burnout. If you feel like you can't remember things, or sometimes people will miss things, like when they're driving, they might miss a stop sign. Like, God forbid anyone has an accident. But it's those little things to watch out for, because your mind is basically overwhelmed with all of the things that you have to do, and the responsibility of what's going on in your world and in your workplace. And at the moment, we feel even greater responsibility, wanting to be of service and help people. And that ability to be responsible is challenged by the fact that there is new information coming in all the time. You mentioned that not long ago, like it's changing regularly, or there's just new. Getting sick is a sign, right? Our immune systems are impacted when we are burnt out. We're hearing this all the time as well, when people are talking about how to keep up our immune systems in order to defend ourselves from COVID-19. They're saying things like, get enough sleep, because it's one of the best things you can do for your immune system.
Yeah, definitely.
In addition to the physical energy, we also want to look at the mental energy, right? If cynicism and complaining has become the norm for you, this is also a sign to watch out for. I mean, I know there are some people who, we know some people who are generally bigger complainers than others, but it's worth checking in with yourself. Again, knowing what's your baseline. And if you just feel like, I'm finding it hard to think anything nice at the moment, I'm finding it hard to see what's working, I feel like I'm complaining about everything. This is a warning sign as well of burnout. There's just so much on your plate, and we become resentful, basically. And I don't think that we need to be giving anyone a hard time if they're being resentful as well. I think this is a sign for self-care. This is a sign that you've been doing a lot.
I find that, like often it can come across as mood swings, or like you said, sort of resentful. Particularly people around you might notice it more. So your family, your friends might be where, you're going, I feel like you're lashing out, or I feel like you're just so negative, you're kind of difficult to be around at the moment, or things like that. So instead of becoming defensive, if that's what you hear someone say to you, kind of going, oh, actually, maybe this is a good thing for me to be aware of, because instead of going, well, but I'm tired because I'm working extra hours, or I'm going through a lot, or it's kind of going, oh, actually, could that be a sign then that I've taken on more than I can process in a healthy way?
At least get a second opinion, right? If you hear it, because sometimes there are people that we just don't like to hear that stuff from, right? Often it's the people who are closest to it. Like, I don't want to hear this from you. But before you jump down their throat, take time and think, okay, well, who would I be willing to hear it from? Let me go and ask them. So maybe it's go and ask one of your best friends. And, my spouse or whoever says that I'm being grumpy lately. What do you think? How do you feel? What's your observation of me? So maybe go and get another second opinion if you think that the first opinion might not be accurate. I've got one more that comes to mind, and it is actually checking in with what is it that you're doing throughout the day. Are you taking time for relaxation? Like, if you get to the end of the day and you realize, I didn't do a single thing today that looked like relaxation, this is also a warning sign, because that is absolutely unsustainable. Like, our daily 24 hours in our day has to include some relaxation downtime, which is not sleep. I'm a big advocate for meditation. It's not always easy to do if you're not in the habit of it, but that type of relaxation, and I'll notice the difference if I don't take time out.
Can I also add something in here? Because I find that sometimes it's good to have have a think of what do we mean by relaxation activities or things that you can do that relax you. Because a lot of the times, and I've heard this from friends and from family going, oh, I just need to wind down, so I'm just going to look at my phone for a little bit, like before bed, for example. And it's like, okay, if yes, it might seem like it's a distraction, but depending on what type of content you're accessing, it might actually be more stressful or more stress inducing. So for example, if you're using that time to go onto social media, and in your social media you've got news about what's happening that's coming up, or people complaining about other things, or people, panicking about other things, that's not really a relaxation activity. And so, the phones are fantastic things and technology can be fantastic, but there's other things that you can do with your phone. You can, if you've got a Kindle app, or there's a lot of meditation apps, there's breathing apps, but then there's other things that don't involve technology at all, like go for a walk. So having that sort of thing. And can you think of any other activities that come to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm glad we've segued into this, because the thing about social media and media in general is it's designed to capture our attention.
Yeah.
And draw us in with lots of sensationalizing, or even just entertaining videos of cats or dogs or whatever, but they draw us in, and it can be a way that you've suddenly killed a half an hour or maybe even an hour scrolling, but not feeling relaxed at the other end of it, more uptight, more wound up, and possibly even more stressed if you got taken into some kind of update or news about what's going on. For me, I love going for walks and listening to audiobooks. I used to do a lot of non-fiction audiobooks, as you know, but I've ventured more into the realm of fiction these days. So I love getting lost in a story. I'm pro Netflix or Stan or whatever your preferred subscription is, and actually allocate some time to get lost and look at it as self-care is a discipline that must be adhered to. Sometimes people feel like if I sit down to watch a movie, it's some kind of extravagance or an indulgence. And so to pull yourself away from always putting other people first, it literally becomes like a discipline that you've got to slot into your day, and you must adhere to that discipline. It's like a code of conduct that must be adhered to. And to help people work out, well, what is it in my case? How do I handle this from my subjective situation? There are two tests that we could apply. One's called the best friend test, and the other one is called the no fear test. These are not some special anything. These are I've made them up somewhere along the line in the last 10 years. So the best friend test is, what would you tell your best friend to do if they were in your position? Because so often we've got better advice for our best friend than we do for us. And so often we are so much more easier on our best friend, and we're more loving towards our best friend, and we think our best friend is entitled to more than us, basically. So we need to flip that around and go, okay, well, if my best friend was currently in my situation, what would I be telling them to do? And you'd probably be telling them to take a break. Do something nice for yourself.
That's very true. There's a lot of double standards when it comes to, no, it's fine for them, but I expect that I'm going to do more, It's like, what?
Exactly. Why? The no fear test is, what would I do if I had no fear? And because fear is often related to, what will other people think of me? So often we are doing things because of outside expectations. And to ask a question like, what would I do if I had no fear? It takes all the other stuff away, and it allows us to tune in to what's true for us. What's true for me in this moment? What is the one thing that I could do in this moment that will make me feel good, and that I have full permission to do, because I have no fear of what anyone else is going to say, and I have no fear of what it's going to mean for me tomorrow, or I don't have fear of money running out. And it doesn't mean we have to disregard those things. We still need to factor in some of the practical elements, but just asking the question allows us to hear some truths within ourselves that we wouldn't otherwise hear. And then if the answer is something you've come up with that seems not practical because maybe it costs more money than you have in your bank account, for example, that then becomes a point in time where we can ask ourselves, well, how is this possible? Could I do this at 50% so it becomes affordable, but at least I'm not completely missing out?
Yeah.
I just had this example come to me where I was thinking about all of the parents I know who are having a challenging time doing all the homeschooling. And when I think of them, and I've asked a couple of them the question too, what would you do if you had no fear? They say things like, I'd let myself off the hook and not feel like I've got to adhere to the homeschooling routine to the letter. And I'd spend more time just walking around the block with my child or sitting down and playing a game with them and interacting with them in this time, which is in some ways a gift. It can feel challenging to have the kids at home so much, but we can look at it as a gift that during this time when I would have less time with my kids because they're at school, I have the gift of being able to sit down and perhaps have some quality time with them.
Yeah.
And that we might only look at it in that way when we let ourselves off the hook of all of these external expectations.
Something that comes up for me is this sort of sense of permission. So it's like it's giving yourself permission or feeling like you're being given permission. So some of the examples that we've seen on the Facebook group and For the Love of Healthcare is some beautiful showcases of where a healthcare professional or someone who works in a clinic, for example, and they're coming home so tired every day, and their spouse or their family or whoever they live with have said, look, we just want you to, we've prepared everything else so that you can just have a bath and have, a couple of hours that are just you time. But that's an environment where that permission has almost been created for you, where it's like, oh, I'm allowed to do the self-care because it's almost like my family or whoever's around me is not going to judge me because this is what they're wanting me to do. But what about in the scenario where that's not the case, where, your family hasn't done that and everybody's just kind of running around doing the things that they do? So I guess my question is, how do we differentiate? Because this is the kind of internal guilt or fear that a lot of us have is, would this be self-care or is this selfish, where really I should really be looking after, I need to cook the dinner, I need to clean do the laundry, look after these people. So the difference between, is this just selfish and me going, well, I'm just gonna forget about my responsibilities and stuff it, or is this no, actually I need to look after myself and it's more of a self-care situation?
That is like the golden question, Magali. Is it self-care or is it selfish? Because everybody's going to have a different opinion around this. And it's one of those things that has a fine, blurry line between it. And doing self-care sometimes means making a decision that what I'm going to do is self-care, even though I might even have people around me saying that it is selfish. Or even though the person saying it's selfish might even be you, and you need to, and because everybody's trying to get what they need, but we don't always have the best strategies and communication skills for asking for what we need when tempers are running high or stress levels are high and people are under pressure. We can become more likely to see what someone else is doing as selfish. We don't always see what someone's been doing behind the scenes. So we might start labeling someone else as selfish, even when really what they're doing is self-care. And when we ourselves are not familiar with self-care and we've been taught that doing self-care is selfish, we can sometimes look at someone else who is adamant that they're just doing self-care and we can view them as selfish. So I'm sort of going the long way around to making this point that it's a blurry thing. And so this is why those questions that I was asking before are designed to differentiate between the selfishness and the self-care, because we're better at noticing what is
test and the no
exactly
fear test.
We are better at noticing what is self-care when it's for a best friend.
Now, I'm very mindful of the time because we spent talking for a fair bit of time, and I just kind of wanted to do a bit of a recap in terms of burnout, make sure there's anything that we haven't missed, because we talked a little bit about the signs, the warning signs of, you might be reaching burnout, things like, for example, sleep quality and the quantity you're getting of sleep, your concentration or how well you're doing your cognitive abilities. Is any of that affected at the moment because of everything that you're going through? Are you getting sick or feeling run down? That can be another sign. Mood swings or feeling resentful or lashing out, or generally being in more of a negative state of being or negative mood. And then also taking stock during the day, going, am I doing any activities that I would consider things that I find enjoyable or relaxing? And if it's something like, oh yeah, I guess I spent some time on my phone, was that social media? That's actually not really relaxing at all. If anything, it's adding to the stress. So being mindful of true rest and relaxation type of activities, the type of things that really help you unplug from what's going on. And for some people, it can be, reading or going for a walk, or it could be drawing or listening to music or anything like that. Then we talked about self-care versus selfish, and how you can do the best friend test and the no fear test, which was, if you had no fear in the situation, how would you behave any differently? What would you actually do? Which again doesn't mean that that's the way you're going to do it, but it does allow you that momentary permission to imagine the possibilities without the barriers or the blocks of fear. So I just wanted to run that as a bit of a summary. Is there anything else that comes to mind in terms of burnout, and how some tips or things that we can do in terms of how we manage that in our homes and in our daily lives?
No, I'm always so impressed with your summarizing skills, Magali. I'm assuming you must take notes, because you just do it so well and so succinctly. It's a testament to your organization skills and your abilities in general. So thank you. No, I mean, it is a big topic. It would be very tempting to open up a whole nother can on this topic. But I think for today, we've covered some really valuable points and some tips that people can use. And of course, we're open to questions. People should reach out and get in touch if they have any specific questions around this. And we can cover those things that we know people are interested in. But for today, I think that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kylie, for joining me. I always love our conversations so very much. If you want to learn more about Kylie, you can check out the website. Her website is kyliezeal.com. She's got a couple of amazing books in there. A lot of the things that we're covering here, she obviously talks about in a lot more detail. So fantastic books. Thank you so much, Kylie, again for joining us.
Thank you.
And I look forward to our next session.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the plug on the books. Please to check them out and get in touch as well. There's a contact us page if you want to reach out and ask me any personal questions as well on the webpage. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks again, Magali. I've loved every second of today.
Thank you, Kylie. All right, I'll chat to you next time. Bye.
You too. Bye for now.
This mini-series is presented by HotDoc. For more resources and peer support, join our Facebook community For the Love of Healthcare, where thousands of healthcare workers come together to ask questions, share ideas, and blow off a little steam. And to learn more about how your practice can use HotDoc to better engage your patients with online bookings, recalls, electronic patient registration forms, mobile check-in, and more, visit hotdoc.com.au. That's HOTDOC.com.au.